The Ministry of Gender, Child and Social Welfare, Ministry of Interior, and Ministry of Justice, in partnership with United Nations Population Fund, has issued a joint press statement to call for action to end gender-based violence, especially for women and girls in the country. In a press conference to the media in Juba, the Minister of Gender, Child and Social Welfare, Aya Benjamin Warile, said there is GBV reported cases by women daily. The women said they don't have a safe place even at home. I added that the government is committed to work with the partners to strengthen legal framework and institution in promoting women's empowerment in South Sudan.
Call for action to end gender-based violence and impunity for gender-based violence perpetrators in South Sudan. Violence against women and girls is violence against the entire humankind and should have no place in South Sudan or elsewhere in the world. The new coronavirus disease, COVID-19 pandemic, is an unprecedented moment in the history of mankind. This crisis affects women, men, boys, and girls differently. As South Sudan responds to this crisis, we are seeing an increase in the reporting of sexual and gender-based violence cases, and in particular, intimate partner violence perpetrated against women and girls, including children. There have been numerous reports in Juba and in different parts of the country of rape, including gang rapes and intimate partner violence, and this is only going to increase as the pandemic increases the vulnerability of the whole population due to COVID-19. We all read the story of an 8-year-old girl who was raped near her home in Juba a couple of weeks ago, and a mother and her daughter who were gang raped at gunpoint in their home a couple of days ago. These are just the tip of the iceberg, as many cases go unreported due to fear, shame, and stigma, leaving perpetrators unpunished. The scale of the problem is alarming. There is not a single day that we do not hear reports of rape, including gang rapes of women, girls, and children. There is no safe place for women and girls, not even at home. Women and girls are targeted when they go to the market to fetch water, look for firewood, in the schools, in the streets, and workplaces. We strongly condemn these as atrocious acts of violence against women and girls. These survivors have no means of escape when the space that is meant to serve as a safe haven, the home, is the place where maximum violence occurs. It is our responsibility as duty bearers, Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Gender, Child and Social Welfare, Ministry of Health, and Ministry of Education and Instructions to keep our commitment to preventing, openly rejecting, and condemning all acts of violence against our sisters, mothers, daughters, aunties, and children. We can do better as a society or community. It is our duty also to protect our citizens, and in particular, the most vulnerable, by creating a safe environment for them to report the crimes committed against them, as many of these perpetrators are known to the communities. The government is committed to working with our partners to strengthen the legal frameworks and institutions, improving services for survivors, addressing the root causes of violence, and promoting women's empowerment. To achieve zero gender-based violence and other harmful practices, we require a broad commitment and involvement of international organizations, local NGOs, civil society, members of the communities, and more importantly, men. The Ministry of Gender, Child and Social Welfare, Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, United Nations Population Fund, and development partners have put in place measures to eliminate gender-based violence and other harmful practices, including the draft anti-GBV bill currently awaiting to be tabled to the Parliament, the Strategic National Action Plan to End Child Marriage 2017-2030. We call upon the Minister of Finance and Development partners to fund this action to enable acceleration of its implementation. In 2019, 32 chiefs from all the former states and Abyei in South Sudan committed to end gender-based violence, including child marriage. 8 of these have declared the abandonment of child marriage practice. We call upon all communities in the 10 states to end child marriage and violence against women. Children should not be forced out of school for marriage. Encourage the girls to remain at school. The United Nations Joint Program on Gender-Based Violence. We call on development partners to fund this joint program that has so far registered substantial milestone in preventing and responding to GBV through the establishment of 11 one-stop centers throughout the country. More than 50,000 men and boys have been reached to change cultural norms that perpetuates gender justice, inequality, and violence against women. A fast-track court has been established to bring perpetrators to justice. More than 100 survivors receive legal justice in the courts. The health, police, community leaders, and social workers have received sustained capacity building on professional assistance to the survivors of GBV. Any survivor of GBV should be reported to the one-stop center for psychosocial support, medical treatment, and access to law and legal support. The Special Protection Unit. There are 9 special protection units established in 9 police stations around Juba for reporting rape cases and violence against women and men. The Ministry of Interior enforces and maintains law and order and provides safety for the survivor and the family in case where the survivor is frightened and needs assurance of safety. The standard operating procedures for prevention, protection, and response to gender-based violence in the Republic of South Sudan, 2014. This document sets clear systems, roles, and responsibilities for all institutions involved in the prevention, protection, and response to GBV in South Sudan. This document applies and creates effective, well-coordinated, multi-sectoral, and comprehensive approach in all GBV prevention, protection, and response programs. Effort has also been made to ensure standard and procedures are articulated for all forms of GBV. All service providers and stakeholders need to be accountable and responsible in respect to the provision in the standard operating procedure. Protection of population and ending impunity to the perpetrators of gender-based violence. We call upon all stakeholders, the police, judiciary, and the security sector actors to protect the communities and ensure access to justice for the survivors of gender-based violence. Establishment of the court to try the cases of gender-based violence, the juvenile court, are a welcome step. It's now critical to ensure that these courts are effectively functional and resourced. We urge the Ministry of Interior and Ministry of Justice to take note of the cases of gender-based violence and train police, lawyers, judiciary to work in tandem to raise the level of confidence amongst the population by ending impunity to the perpetrators regardless of their status of ranks, and that the survivor receives support towards building their lives. The toll-free mobile helplines. There are toll-free mobile helplines available in Juba for girls, women, boys, and men who need to access help for support. Lulu Care is operating a 24-hour toll-free helpline number 662, Call to Action, to provide support to survivors of gender-based violence and any other. Crown the Women also has a toll-free call number 623. Call this number for any help. We acknowledge the frontline workers, GBV social workers, health workers, civil society organizations, and government personnel who are relentlessly addressing these issues while putting their own lives at risk. We pay tribute to them for their important effort to tackle this crisis. Women and girls are equal and valuable part of this society. They are the backbone of South Sudan. We must treat the women and girls of our country with dignity and respect. Their safety, health, security, and access to justice is everyone's responsibility. As South Sudanese, let us take responsibility for our actions. Let us have zero tolerance for gender-based violence and other harmful practices. They say charity begins at home. We must start from the home. If a woman cannot be safe in her own house, we cannot expect her to be safe outside of her home. We urge all men and women of South Sudan to break the silence and come forward to protect, support the survivors of gender-based violence, and to bring perpetrators to justice. For without ending gender-based violence, we cannot build a just and prosperous country, the South Sudan we all want and deserve. Thank you very much. God bless South Sudan.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Interior, Paul Mayom Akech, said, protection of citizens of South Sudan is the responsibility of his ministry.
None of us is born minors to come and complete after birth. Dignity and rights are born with us. We get duties on earth. With us, for any other person to usurp or deny these fundamental rights to dignity is unacceptable. None of us has been born as a subject of sale or resale to any specific individual or purchased by any individual. Traditional beliefs, customary practices that are injurious to us must all be abandoned and outlawed. Rape, underage marriages, violence against women that goes with impunity should stop. And we in the rule of law sector, the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Interior, and the judiciary have a greater role to play. One, to bring about the legal framework necessary for the protection of these vulnerable. Two, track down the perpetrators. 3, administer these laws and bring the culprits to books. I would want to appreciate you, Minister. This call is timely. We in the interior have the setup that you have mentioned. We are on a standby 24 hours for any call, and we look forward to expediting the legal framework that is the draft bill on gender-based violence law. I want to thank all. It is our obligation to ensure that no one goes without being punished once that abuse is ascertained. Customary practices, traditional norms that are injurious are now a target of our focus, and we must all join to combat them. I want to thank you.
However, the first legal consult office of the Minister of Justice, Lawrence, appealed to the vulnerable of rape to report any rape cases immediately to the police.
I would make the same in the line of the statement made and the statement made by the Minister of Interior in regards to the topic of today. In fact, I believe many in this country are not aware of their rights when they are abused, especially within the marriage relations in the families. Those who are expected to protect the citizens from the abuse, especially the police, may not have the right to intervene. They think they have no right to intervene in the family abuse setup because of the cultural beliefs that women, once married, is become like a property of the man, and that is not really what the law says. The laws are very clear. The Constitution is very clear. The Penal Code of this country has addressed those issues, including the raping cases, the abduction, the sale of children for prostitution purposes, and even the issue of marriage, though people interpret it in a different manner. And in fact, the police are supposed to make sure if they see a woman being abused by the partner or a husband, they should intervene and arrest the perpetrator, because this is their job to enforce the law. We in the Ministry of Justice has done enough, in fact, in the laws that are addressing those issues, and I can take you through some of the provisions within our Constitution and the Penal Code, and even the accession to international conventions like CEDAW and the African Charter on People's Rights. In fact, we have also made some commitment, and in fact, we even presented them to Parliament, like the optional protocol on the African Charter for the rights of women in Africa. We have also submitted to the accession to be acceded to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Those are the issues that need to be followed up. In fact, if you look at our constitutional framework of this country, we have Article 9. Article 9, which deals, paragraph 3, which deals with the Bills of Rights, which says the constitutional that all rights and freedoms enshrined in the international treaties, and underline this, and covenants ratified or acceded to by South Sudan shall be an integral part of the Bill of Rights. and it has to be enforced by the Supreme Court and other courts. This is clear. It is just implementation. If you don't go to court, if you don't book somebody, if you don't arrest somebody, you will not be able to prosecute. The law may be there, but if you don't apply it, then it's just like any document. And Article 10 of the Bill of Rights is to be upheld, protected, and applied by the Supreme Court and other courts. The Human Rights Commission, I wish it is part of this, is supposed to monitor the implementation of this particular article of the Bill of Rights. Then, if you go ahead also in the Constitution, there is a provision, an article, which is Article 11, which says, every person has the inherent right to life, dignity, and integrity of his person or her person, which shall be protected by law. And the law is the penal code. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived. You see, when you say arbitrarily deprived, it can be even within the marriage arrangement. Somebody is trying, and when you have, the abuse is not necessarily beating. It's not always physical. It can be mentally, financially. You are oppressing that lady not to have all what you have because of her gender within that family setup. Then the issue of marriage, I already talked about it. That is in Article 15. And then also the issue of Article 16, which is equality of women to participate in public life, including politics. And this is one thing that the leadership of this country, I think, has taken note of it, and we need to follow it up to make it utilized to the extent of satisfying our women. Now, going to the next is the penal code. The penal code is very exhaustive. I will just give you the topics of what is contained in that particular law. The offenses relating to bodily injury or intimidation. Assault is one of them, and obviously this is physical, beating a woman or beating another gender because she is unable or he is not able to defend himself. Sexual offenses, and offenses against morality. And the morality include the rape and acts of gross indecency, words, gesture, or acts intended to insult the modesty of women. And these are things that a lot of people are doing it in our community. You just insult a woman, you say any word that you think is right, and nobody is going to take you to court or prosecute you for that. And then there are offenses involving infringement of liberty, dignity, privacy, or reputation. People always lower women's position in the society by acts that shows that she is less than a man. Nobody prosecute on that. And this is something that we in the Ministry of Justice, we cannot go physically to implement those laws. We only make the laws and we expect it to be implemented. In our international obligation, under the international obligation, we have done a lot of things. And I can tell you the accession and the ratification processes that the Ministry of Justice has overtaken from the independence up to today. I can tell you we have enough conventions which we already embodied some of them in our constitution, and even we have some legislation like the Child Act 2008, and we have CEDAW, which actually is part of our constitution, and we have the African Charter, as I mentioned earlier. So this is what I want us to work together on, to make the public know that there are laws, and to make women come out, as the minister has said, to report. If you don't complain, nobody is going to ask you why your face look like this. They will think this is normal. That is not normal. So, Madam Minister, I think we are in the same line with you. We would definitely, you present us the bill and we will work on it very urgently to process it through Parliament and the Cabinet, and so that it is part of the current legal system in the country. But there are more also which you may have to really push forward in terms of educating the public on the rights of women and men, and issues relating to marriages and all this. And I can witness one situation in India. There was this issue of dowry, women paying dowry and a lot of money, and especially after the marriage, women are killed because they have not completed payment of that dowry to the family of the husband. So they made a law, and the Parliament made a law, but the law became impossibly applicable because the community's mindset is not accepting the change. And this is something that we need to work on seriously to make sure that people change, that women are equal. You have to respect her. You have to give her support. When she is in crisis, people need to come together and do it, so that because they are the one close to the children, even how to bring children up is not the role of men alone. It's women who are really playing major role to have a good citizen in the country. So thank you very much.
On the other hand, the spokespersons of police, Daniel Justin, said perpetrators to rape or any form of GBV must face the law. He called for the people to end GBV in the country.
Daniel Justin Bola. I'm the Director of Moral Orientation and Public Relations, and under me we have special protection units. These are in the police stations, and are there to pay special attention to vulnerable groups, women and children. And they are the one to handle the cases of vulnerable groups, as I said, women and children, cases of rape and so on. We have them in 6 states plus Juba, and in Juba the situation is better in terms of we, with the coordination, with the support from the UNDP, we managed to establish special protection units in all police stations in Juba. And also with the civil society and UNIMIS, we managed to train many female police officers to be in charge of cases of gender-based violence. This is to secure privacy, because the victim, if he gets that environment, he can give more information. That is a small background, but I will start with the question of plans, which was addressed to the minister. But for us as organized forces, we have conflict-related sexual-based violence action plans. And this starts after the conflict in 2013. 2014, the UN Under-Secretary, Madam Zainab, yes, he signed a communique with His Excellency the President, and this community was brought to us for implementation. And we had a working group in the Office of the President, and in the Ministry of Interior also we have a working group, including the Ministry of Gender. This working group, they meet regularly to address matters related to sexual-based violence. And the Army did well. They made their action plan, and then they went to the states in the divisions to train the commanders and the officers in regard to this conflict-related sexual violence. And during the launching of their action plan, the former Minister of Defense was very clear to the commanders that if any case of gender-based violence committed in your by one of your soldiers, then you, the commander, you will be the first to be charge responsible, because you need to brief your soldiers on a daily basis such that this matter is a serious issue, and then beside the criminal, you as a commander, you take part of the responsibility. For us, we the police also, we did the same, and our action plan is out, and we have a committee formed to follow up the implementation. This is maybe the background in regard to this. The most challenge, as it was put by Honorable Minister, hello, welcome. The challenges, the challenges we are facing, as it was mentioned in the release, it is actually in regard to our norms, and then we lack the level of our cooperation and coordination is not to the expectation. Because as a result, these things, most of the cases are not reported. Our civilian or the communities, sometimes they report to the media. To the extent, the example given to me, or the case which was given to me by Mirai or iRadio, I follow up the case. They reported to me that there is a case of rape in Budele, and then I went to the police station, no case open. I contacted Mirai to give me more details about the person whom they contacted and gave them the report. I could not make it, and at the end, even up to now, there is no case open. So in regard to this, with the civil society, especially the youth and women, we did a lot of workshops such that this awareness reached them in terms of that gender-based violence is a crime and needs to be reported to the police. And through our community policing also, the community leaders, we train them as to how to help us in reporting these cases. Because they, community leaders, sometimes they are involved in terms of resolving these matters at their level of forced marriage, or sometimes they pay dowry and so on, and these underage marriages. So now we are doing our best to reach people at the grassroots level, and with the Ministry of Gender, we are pushing. And now in our special protection units also we have social workers which are working with us in the area of counseling and assisting the victims in all other concerns. For example, the example which was asked in regard to a case of rape reported to the police station, and then after some time the perpetrator was released. Of course, the police stations, we are working together with the attorney generals. When a case is open and investigation is over, we pass it to the attorney general such that the case goes to court. And the suspect has the legal right of bailing. So sometimes he is due to be bailed out, and then the case goes to the court. And after that, we follow up the case until it ends in the court, by giving, the prosecution. So our people are more are concerned of making sure that the person is arrested, and that is the whole of what they want. When you arrest somebody, they don't follow up cases, you see. So sometimes we go to the court, present the case, the police will appear, but the person concerned will not come because they have already said at home, and then resolve it. This is one of the challenges we are facing. It is resolved outside the court. So our challenge is that you, the media, we want to work together. As it was put, all of us, we need to work together. Now we have another challenge with this organization, Crown Women, I think. Yeah. They came to us and that they have established a center and they are working in regard to this gender-based violence. After that, sometimes if there is a case reported to them, They take the victim, do the necessary assistance to the victim, but at the end of the day, no case open in the police. So we have been asking them, Ya Jama, we work together. You need, whenever there is something, you just report it to us, we open a case, then you take the victim. It is our responsibility to look for the criminal. So it is a challenge now. Even sometimes back, we have the headquarters of the Special Protection Unit in the Gudele Block 9. It is already built. We went together with the Undersecretary to visit it, and it will be launched on Monday. It is a chance also to inform all the media. You are welcome to see the office, the new office for South Sudan headquarters for the Special Protection Unit. It is concerned because it concerns in regard to these gender-based violence matters. And also sometimes the statistics given in most cases is not accurate, because for us we said let people take the statistics from the police, because whenever we have quarterly statistics every half a year and then yearly statistics, but we are facing the challenge of this not reporting the cases to us. So now with the headquarters being launched, we will make sure that statistics are made on daily basis and weekly, monthly, and so on. But at the end, I appeal to all of us to work together. Otherwise, the challenge is big, especially with the community. If we work together, I'm sure we will do something. We will make the change we are aspiring to. Thank you very much.
I really want us to condemn these acts in the strongest terms possible every time they occur. And our presence here today, the Ministry of Justice, Gender, Interior, is sending a strong message, very strong message to the perpetrators that this impunity will not be tolerated at all. So I'm really so happy about this, to see the Inspector General of Police, the Justice and Interior, to tell the perpetrators that we can no longer and we must not tolerate this abuse on women. The community should be empowered when they see you here today talking about, justice, so that they come forward. I know that the community knows the perpetrators, but they are afraid. They know these people. But to see you here, and if you say that we are going to seek them out and bring them to justice, they will come forward, and that you will protect them when they do so. So we need you to reassure the community. We cannot allow men and perpetrators to use women's bodies as battle zones, where they wage war, including on children. We are better than that, like the minister said. We cannot use women's bodies as battlegrounds, including very little babies. This is not what we do. We must protect the most vulnerable. So this has to be a strong message sent out there, and it cannot be just one occasion. Every time this happens, we must come out and we must seek these people out and bring them to justice. And at UNFPA, we are here to help. If you need support in training, any technical support, we are here to support. We will come forth and support. We are already supporting the one-stop centers. We are, preventing and responding to gender-based violence all over the country. So we are here to support the government, but as duty bearers, our responsibility is to protect the citizens. And protection is a government's responsibility. We can only do so much. So I really thank you that you are here today. You took time to come and discuss this issue, which for me as a mother, as an auntie, as a daughter, is really painful. It's truly, truly painful. And I told the UN country team that I will no longer be discussing these issues because it's taking a toll on me. We cannot allow our children and our daughters to be abused daily, and we keep quiet as if nothing has happened. We cannot do that. It's so painful. So we really must take action. It can't be just a press conference. I think from today on, we must see some change in bringing the perpetrators to justice. And if we arrest even 2 or 3 people and make it known, they will stop. But we have to go after them. So I really want to thank the journalists who report these issues. You've been keeping at it and you've been reporting these issues, but the police has to now take action. Go seek them out because the community knows them, and arrest them and publicize it so that people know. And it is not only here in Juba, it is all over the country. It is all over the country. So all I can say is I want to thank you all. We are here to support you, but let not this be the end. This is just the beginning. Thank you so much.
The International Convention for Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, was adopted in 1979 by the UN General Assembly. Is often described as an international bill of rights for women. Reporting for Dolco Media, I am Jennifer James in Juba.